This is my beautiful piece of Luan plywood that I'm going to work on, and I need to seal it first. I've already sanded it with some fine sandpaper, and now I'm just painting on a coat of matte medium that's been thinned with water. And this is just to apply a little bit of an acrylic coat to it to keep the wood from absorbing too much paint. I'm not actually going to be doing too much painting directly onto the wood, but I am going to be doing some. So I want it to have the same absorbency as everything else that I'm going to be painting on. So this is sort of the poor woman's primer for wood, just to give it a little coat. And it also raises the grain a little bit. You can see that the grain is much more visible after I apply this. So, and then once this dries, I can give it another quick sand and another coat if I think I need to, and then it will be ready for painting. And this is something that I would do even if I was painting directly onto the wood. Like, I always try to prime the wood that I'm working on a little bit. And since I want the actual wood grain to show through, I wouldn't want to prime it with something like gesso, which would give it a paintable surface but would also be opaque. So this is the solution. It's a nice clear primer. I let this dry overnight, and now it's a little bit rougher than it was, and that's because the water sort of expands the wood a little bit and raises the grain, and so it's a little rough. So I'm taking my extra fine sanding block and sanding it back down, and you can sort of see I sanded this section and it's just a tiny bit lighter. So I'm probably going to wipe this down with the soft cloth after I'm done, and then do another coat, and if it's still rough, sand it again, and keep working back and forth until I end up with a surface that's smooth and also sealed. So I'm just sanding, and I'm sanding with the grain because I don't want any scratch marks across. Sanding with the grain sort of minimizes the scratch marks that the sanding block does. So I'm going to do that off camera. So my wood took 2 sandings and 3 coats of the mix of matte medium and water. So it was matte medium and water, and then sand, and then another coat of medium, and then sand, and one final coat. And now it's pretty smooth, and the last coat of matte medium didn't absorb as quickly, so that tells me that it's just about saturated into the grain of the wood, so that anything that I layer on top of it won't get sucked in and get dispersed out into the grain. Because sometimes if I work with washes, what will happen is the water will get absorbed into the wood and get pulled out away from where I'm working. So now that I have a nice acrylic sealer coat on this, I'm hoping that that won't happen.